Most people think they know what normal looks like. Safe, familiar, neatly explained. But some stories are told as fake news until they're proven wrong. Tonight, we ain't here for comfort. We're here to look closer. This is the other side of normal. Yes. Welcome to the other side of normal, where reality is more of a suggestion than, a rule. This is a place for all the strange stories, unexplained moments, and kind of accounts that just sit in your head long after you hear them. The ones that are just there and they're not going away. Paranormal, mysterious, uncomfortable, fascinating. It all lives right here. Yeah. So, I'm thinking before I get into the deeper stuff, I want to start simple. I want to start personal. Because if you're going to spend time listening to me talk about weird shit every week, you should probably know what kind of idiot you're listening to on the other side of the microphone. So, why am I doing a podcast? Because I want to. No grand master plan. No corporate angle. I've always been the kind of person who ends up, 2 in the morning, eating a whisper, reading about disappearances and sightings, ghost encounters, or just watch some history documentary on YouTube. But, that's just me. So I'm thinking, why is this not what everyone's talking about all the time? Who's this show for? Honestly, anyone who gives a shit. Anyone who's curious. I don't care. I'm enjoying myself, so why don't you try? Anyone who enjoys a good mystery or a creepy story on a dark night. Anyone. What am I into? Unexplained mysteries, paranormal encounters, ghost stories, Bigfoot, UFO reports, conspiracy theories, all the fun shit. I love it. What am I like as a person? I'm alright. I laugh at myself. Don't take myself too seriously. If you want to roast me, feel free. I really don't care. If you want to laugh, even better. We're here for a good time and a strange time. Ooh. I'm constantly searching for something interesting to read or listen to. And eventually I thought, you know what? Stop just consuming this stuff, boring my wife shitless with it. I'll just start creating something. So here we are. Okay, to open things up, I want to share a couple of short stories that I grew up hearing when I was, between the ages of 9 and 13, probably. They were all told by family members, my nan, my granddad, neighbours. Yeah, they absolutely terrified me when I was a kid. Now, not the scariest stories ever told. But, when you're 10 years old and you're lying in bed staring at a dark hallway, yeah, it hits different. And honestly, that's what matters. So, story number 1. Family friend, someone who was basically like a granddad, once told me about something that happened to him in the middle of the night. He was asleep in his bed when he woke to a tapping sound. Wasn't very loud, just a steady rhythmic thing. coming from what sounded like the stairwell outside his bedroom. You know, that sort of half awake state where, you know, you're just not fully woken up yet. That was how he was at this moment in time. He lifted his head, looked towards the doorway through blurred eyes. Someone standing in the doorway was a man, right? Victorian clothing. It's always Victorian clothing, isn't it? You never see a ghost with, like, in jogging bottoms or whatever. Proper old school. Long coat, top hat, you know, all that crazy shit they used to wear. Just standing there. Now, here's the part that I always found wild. His first thought obviously wasn't, it's a ghost. His first thought was, it's an intruder. So he jumps out the bed, charges at him, full on commitment here, and goes straight through him. Shock. Almost falls over the banister and down the stairs. Managed to save himself. So obviously he didn't fall down the stairs, so he didn't break anything. But he was very lucky, because this old style house with a picture of the stairs is pretty much like a ladder. No damage done there. Now, I take issue with this because, well, for starters, I refused to go upstairs after that story was told. I was like, fuck that, I'm not going up there, dude. The adult me has questions. Kid me was shit scared. All right? So the issue I have with it is, if I wake up and see a Victorian man in a top hat, I'm not going to think I'm being burgled. I'm going to think, holy shit, what the fuck is that? That's a very, very committed thief with a strong sense of fashion. And if it was an intruder, I'd probably say, mate, you've dressed up for the occasion here, so fucking take the telly. I just think my neighbour was fucking steaming, to be honest, thinking about it now. Anyway, story number 2. My grandmother told me this one, but, you know, it's not the best, I'll be honest, but it fills a couple of minutes. She saw a little girl walk into her bedroom, yeah? Clear as day, she was at the bottom of the stairs, she looked up, she seen this girl walking into her room. Now, she knew that there was no one in the house apart from her and her mother, yeah? So obviously, she runs to her mother, my great nan. She's 8 years old, probably said something along the lines of, Mum, there's some bitch in my bedroom, like, you know, being from the valleys and that. So, and to be fair, they did used to give kids whiskey back in the day to help them sleep, so maybe she was fucking steaming as well. Story number 3. Okay, this is my favourite. So this came from my granddad, but it was, I believe it happened to my uncle, but my granddad was telling me, walking home from work. The rain was coming down, cold air, empty lane. He hears footsteps behind him, turns around, sees a man a little bit away on the path. Thinks nothing of it, carries on walking. Minute later, footsteps again, closer, louder, faster. He turns again, and the figure is right behind him. He panics, stumbles backwards, falls over. The figure, entity, being, ghost, whatever you want to call it, very slowly leans over him, offers his hand as if to pick him up. Fuck me. Some reason, I never know why, I will never understand this, he takes this figure's hand. He always told my granddad it felt wrong. It didn't feel like skin and bone, not like, you know, flesh. It was more like clay, like Play-Doh. Now, I know what all you fathers are thinking. More fucking Play-Doh. Yeah, more Play-Doh. There's always more Play-Doh. Just get that into your head. Stop you going grey. As he was holding this hand, this thing just disappeared. Poof, gone. And then he just ran all the way home. So there you have it. There's my 3 cents. The things that stuck with me. Are they world-class horror stories? No, far from it. but they're part of my history. I just think they're a good doorway into this kind of strange territory that this show is going to explore. So I've researched and researched for years, reports and unexplained encounters and stuff like that. But for this proper dive in, I wanted again to do something special to me, something that's just stuck with me and pulled me further and further down the rabbit hole since first time I heard it. So now we are stepping into the heart of tonight's show. Time slips. Fucking mind-boggling. I love it. Can't explain it, but for some reason, time slips is the number one for me. But there's really not many stories out there. Not like your UFOs and your Bigfoots and stuff. But this is my favorite one. If you're into this sort of thing, these sort of podcasts, you've probably heard about this one because, this is the most famous one, I believe. Absolutely blew my mind, as I say. I went down a sort of research spiral for weeks after this, just reading as much as I could on it. Here it is. Oxford, England, 1886. Charlotte Ann Moberly had just become the first principal of St. Hugh's College in Oxford. Highly, highly educated lady. Comes from a very strong, intelligent family as well. Which is one of the reasons, I suppose, that I give this story some real weight. Because, the individuals in this story, they're not nutters, should we say. So, Moberly, she needed help running the college. So she hired Eleanor Jourdain as her personal assistant. Jourdain had attended school in her younger years, which wasn't common at the time. Most children were educated at home by their parents, neighbours, whoever. And she later became a teacher at several schools and then progressed to head teacher at several schools. Another very well-educated woman. Jourdain owned a holiday home in Paris, and Moberly was invited to come and stay with her so they could get to know each other. They decided to take a tour of the Palace of Versailles. They weren't especially impressed with the palace itself, so they decided to walk through the gardens toward the Petit Trianon. But when they arrived, it was closed to the public. They had a guidebook, but somehow missed a turn in anyway. They ended up going down this narrow lane instead. Moberly remembered seeing a woman shaking a white cloth out of a window. Jourdain remembered an old deserted farmhouse with a rusty plough outside. This, my friends, is where it starts feeling wrong. They both described an unbearable silence. No winds in the trees, no movement at all, no natural sound. Everything was just weird. Even the sunlight looked strange with there not being any shadows anywhere. Everything was flat and lifeless like a painted scene. They saw two men wearing greenish coats and three-cornered hats, clothing that wasn't in fashion at the time at all, and the men pointed them straight ahead. The atmosphere felt like really heavy and gloomy, like they were never going to be happy again. Further along, they came across like a small kiosk with a bench. On the bench, there was a man sitting there in dark clothing with a really dark hat. As he turned, Moberly said his face looked hideous. Didn't say that to him, obviously, that's just rude. But she thought it at the time. Jourdain said it looked pitted, like a smallpox sort of thing, and that the air around him felt completely evil. They were reluctant to pass him when suddenly another man appeared. Tall, dark, handsome. Everything you want in a guy, according to my missus, anyway. Pointed them in a different direction and told them to go that way, like don't go somewhere else. Moberly also recalled seeing a woman in an old-fashioned dress sitting on the grass, drawing or doing some sort of doodling, and then later suggested that may have been Marie Antoinette herself. So, They followed the directions and eventually arrived back at the Petit Trianon, except now they were back with a load of tourists. Now, if you remember, it was closed to the public when they started this journey. When they returned home, they wrote separate accounts of what they experienced and compared them afterwards. And after sort of researching the details, they believed they may have been witness to events from around 6 weeks before the fall of the French monarchy in 1792. So there you have it. What happened there? Time slip? Psychological episode? Shared misconception? I don't know. But I know this. Stories like this stick. They don't fade, they don't just go away. They just ask more questions and they answer, really. And that's why we're here and that's why I'm here. Because whether these stories are sort of supernatural, psychological, historical, or something we don't yet have a language for, they matter. They matter because they're creepy, which I love. They matter because they're intriguing, and they're just completely fucking bonkers. And even if they're not true, I still love them. And if you do too, you're in the right place. So, one of the, I would say, lesser known time slips. It's not in ancient times or remote or abandoned buildings. It's a busy shopping street in the heart of a UK major city. Multiple independent witnesses have reported stepping out of the present day and briefly into the past while walking down Bold Street in Liverpool. The details are oddly consistent with everyone that's experienced it. Shops have vanished, outdated vehicles, and people dressed decades out of time. So here it is. Bold Street. It's become known among paranormal researchers for repeated reports of time slips, or so-called time slips. The most widely cited case comes from a gentleman who reported this experience in the 1990s. So he's walking down Bold Street towards a bookshop. As he crossed the road, he suddenly noticed that surroundings looked very, very wrong. The cars were older models, the street felt really quiet, and the atmosphere, just like the Moberly and Jourdain incident, was very quiet, almost muted. He looked at the shops and saw business names he didn't recognise, having been in this area for quite a long time. Stores that no longer existed. One storefront appeared to be selling old-style handbags and accessories, displayed in a way typical of the 50s or 60s. Oh, again, decades before his time. Very confused. He entered what he thought was the modern bookshop, but instead it wasn't a bookshop anymore. It appeared to be a clothing store with outdated decor, staff uniforms from decades earlier. He reported feeling disorientated and stepped back outside almost immediately, and the street had returned to normal. Modern cars, present-day shops, and the correct bookstore beside him that he had just came out of. Later, he researched the location and claimed that the shop he saw, including the products on display, matched a business that had operated there many, many decades before. There's other witnesses that have reported the similar short events on the same street. Common details include sudden silence or dampened sound, changes in vehicle styles, storefront signage different, matching historical records, and it wasn't the present day. Some more accounts, the experience lasts less than a minute. There's no visible transition, and now you're back. No fade or distortion, like you'd probably get in a movie. Just an abrupt switch, click of the finger, modern to past, past to modern. Skeptics, there's always a skeptic. They love it. They suggest misconception, memory reconstruction, or momentary disassociation. Supporters argue the consistency of location in historical details makes the reports harder to dismiss. I'll let you be the judge of that. But whatever the case, Bold Street, Liverpool, remains one of the most frequently cited modern urban locations, linked to repeated time-slip reports. Not a single legend, not just one man, not just one woman, but a pattern told by multiple unrelated witnesses. And that, my friends, is the end of this first episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have, and I'm not stopping now, and I have no intention of it. So if you've experienced something unusual, unexplained sounds, sightings, encounters, just submit your account for review. I'll have a look at it, and yeah, I'll happily read anyone's stories out. Stories are shared anonymously unless permission is given, basically. You can follow me on all the major social medias under the name The Other Side of Normal. Just get in touch via Messenger and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.